Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a great week. I know I did, and one of the reasons why was because I got the pleasure of introducing Pastor Lexus to some of you on Monday and Thursday night. Who is Pastor Lexus, you might be asking? Well, she's going to be the new UpStreet pastor for Oasis. I could not be happier that God has brought her to you guys just to love on you guys. I think you're going to love her. I think she's amazing, and I can't wait for you to get to know her more and more. Okay, so we're going to let her do the Bible story this week, as well as kind of wrap everything up. And before that, though, you're going to hear about what we've been learning all month with our theme, Focus, Take a Closer Look. That's right. And our life app for the month is Faith. What is faith, you might be asking? Well, faith is simply put, trusting in what you can't see because of what you can see. Say that with me. Faith, trusting in what you can't see because of what you can see. Now, God has given us all kinds of things to help us with our faith. It could be our pastors, our leaders in the church, people that we respect that are Christians within our community, our parents. Anyone that you know has a strong relationship with God, God has placed that person in your life to help you get to know Him better. Another way that God has helped us get to know Him is through the Bible. That's right. God gave us His Word so that we could dig in and read what He has for us. And our memory verse for this month is, God's grace has saved you because of your faith in Christ. Your salvation doesn't come from anything you do. It is God's gift. Ephesians 2:8. All right, so now before we get to meet Alexis in the Bible story, let's go ahead and see if I can get Mikkel on here. I wanted to talk to him just kind of about some logistics about Alexis coming in and kind of meeting you guys through Sunday morning. All right, let's see. Hey, Mikkel. Oh, Alexis is here.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
What a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, remember, Daniel, we talked about having Lexus, so she's going to be the new children's pastor. We talked about kind of bringing her in and showing her kind of how we our creative process for how we make these videos for UpStreet. We talked about this.
I think that's a great idea, but I don't think we talked about it.
Yeah, we definitely talked about this. How are you doing, Daniel? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I think and even though we didn't talk about it, I think it's a great idea. So I'm super excited. So Alexis, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Hope it's not weird.
Oh no, not at all, not at all.
No, it's not you, it's him. He's being weird.
Oh,
but so we this is kind of our creative process. We get together on Zoom and we make a video for UpStreet, and we have some fun things. Like one time we played Pig. You know the game Horse, the basketball, and you kind of do trick shots. Mm-hmm. We did that. We did a bottle flip challenge.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
One week he came to my house and he held a boombox up over his head, kind of with John Cusack.
Yeah, say anything.
Who's that? Remind me.
You know who John Cusack is. Like he's holding the boombox and Peter Gabriel songs playing, and he was in let's see what else. He was in 16 Candles.
Oh yeah. High Fidelity.
I don't.
Yeah.
Really?
He was in Say Anything, which is the reference. He was in Better Off Dead. He was in a lot of movies in the 80s, like a lot of John Hughes movies.
Is there any movies he was in the 2000s?
It's John Cusack. Everyone knows who John Cusack is. He was in in the 2000s. He was in I don't know. He may not have done it. I don't know. I only know him from 80s. But this is John Cusack.
Oh wait, no. He did that movie 2012.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. I saw that one.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2011.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make sense now that I think about it.
Yeah. Got to be prepared.
But anyway,
hey guys, be honest.
What were we talking about?
Well, we kind of got off tangent. Mikkel, you kind of... Alexis, I'm sorry. Just so you know, I should probably kind of let you know. Mikkel has the tendency of getting off topic a lot when we try and do these videos, and so I kind of have to like bring him back in, and so we can focus and things like that. So,
Good to know.
yeah.
No, you're joking, right?
No, Mikkel. I mean, I don't take offense to this, but like.
No, none taken.
Yeah, because it's not like, it's kind of like one of your more endearing qualities. Like, you know, you're the person, like, I'm the one that's like really well put together, and I know what I'm going to be talking about and stuff like that. And you kind of tend to like, you're kind of goofy, and you know, and like sometimes have to be like brought back in, you know, really back.
Yeah, no, Lexus, I'm sorry about that. Kids, I'm sorry about that. There's, I mean, anybody who's ever seen anything we do knows that it's the exact opposite. I mean, Lexus, you've seen a couple of videos we've made, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into that, so
Yeah.
you know.
I don't blame you, Lexus. I mean, you know, he's going to be someone you're working with for a while, so mum's the word.
But Daniel, I mean, you know that you usually are the ones that usually the one between the two of us who kind of breaks off on the tangent, and I'm usually the one that kind of has to rope you back in. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't. If I have to prepare a montage to go into this part of the video, or better case in point, hey, what you drinking there?
Oh, it's coffee, caveman coffee, actually.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Oh yeah, no problem. Keith Jardine, the MMA athlete, he created this coffee. It's great, actually. You put butter in it, grass-fed butter. The butter is not grass-fed. The cows that the butter comes from is grass-fed. And then you put this chemical in it that comes from coconut oil in it as well, and it has like some great like properties. It kind of gives you like the state of euphoria, but it's known to help with like dementia and stuff like that. I mean, it is great. I think I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah. See,
Hear you. That,
yeah. Well, case in point, Exhibit A right here. So why don't we go ahead and leave it at that, and let's go ahead and show a video to the kids. What do we have next? A Bible story?
Yeah, but it's a little bit different this week. We have the intro, which is normal, but Lexus is actually going to be doing the Bible story for you guys. So I really hope you enjoy that. And then she will wrap everything up, and then I will see you after that.
You got this! You got this! You got this! You have got this! Yay! Yeah! Now we're focused. Hey everyone, it's Erica. You might be wondering what I'm doing talking to myself in the mirror. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Well, I decided I needed a little encouragement because it's been sort of a hard week. You see, a few days ago, my aunt was stuck at home with a broken leg. So I took some soup to her house, but then her dog peed on my shoe. And then I slipped and spilled the soup all over the place. And then the next day, I was walking home from the library, and a car drove through a puddle next to me and splashed water all over me and all over my library book. Are you kidding me? Then, yesterday, I tripped over a sleeping cat, and I fell into a prickly rose bush. Ow. So, you know, it's been one of those weeks. And I'm trying to encourage myself to have a better day. But it's going to take faith. Faith is trusting in what you can't see because of what you can see. So even though I still have a few scratches from yesterday's catastrophe, I have faith that today will be better. See? It's better already! Today's story is all about some people who are having a bad week. Actually, several weeks. And okay, maybe they had bigger problems than spilled soup, a wet library book, and a thorny rose bush. But my week was still pretty bad. I'll see you when the storm passes. That'll make sense after the story.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, Stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Acts, chapters 27 and 28.
Alright guys, I have a really cool story for you today, and it's a pretty amazing story if you ask me, except for I wish I had some good props to really just bring the action. Well, I am sitting at my desk right now, so we'll try to make things work. Let's go ahead and jump into the story. So last week we talked about Paul, and Paul didn't always believe in Jesus. In fact, he actually tried to stop people from putting their faith into Jesus. But then Jesus appeared to Paul, and Paul realized that he had been wrong all along. He made it his life's mission to travel all over and to spread the word about Jesus to as many people as possible. Unfortunately, Paul did face some many difficult days because he taught so boldly about Jesus. He was beaten and made fun of, thrown into jail, and run out of town. One day in Jerusalem, Paul was arrested by Roman soldiers after a mob tried to kill him. Yikes. So let's go ahead and add some visuals. This is the waves, and just so we can kind of remember and keep up, here's Jerusalem, where Paul was arrested. Okay, and while Paul was in prison, Jesus appeared to him. Listen to what Jesus said to encourage him. He said, "Be brave. You have told people about me in Jerusalem. You must do the same in Rome." So Paul must have felt really encouraged after Jesus showed up to tell him to keep going. But he still had a hard road in front of him. A group of religious leaders tried plotting to kill him, so Paul was taken to the governor of Caesarea. Let's go ahead and add this to Paul's journey. And then, from there, he was ordered to Rome to stand trial before Caesar. Okay, let's add Rome. Perfect. And so, in order to get to Rome, Paul was handed over to Roman commander Julius for the sea journey. Now, Julius was actually really kind, and he even allowed Paul to visit his friends when they stopped in Sidon. Oh wait, we need to add that one too. So, we have to move Rome a little over, okay, and add Sidon. Perfect. And then from there they sailed to Cyprus, and they had transferred into a ship from Egypt that was carrying grain to Italy. All right, so we need to add Cyprus. So let's go ahead and move Rome a little over again. And let's add Cyprus. All right, perfect. Then the ship fought against a wind for many days until they arrived to a town on the island of Crete called Fair Havens. Oh boy, I don't know if we're gonna be able to fit this. Let's see. All right, the town called Fair Havens. Perfect. Okay, and at this point in the journey, there was a lot of time that has passed, and the sailing had become really dangerous. And even though Paul was a prisoner, he spoke up to the men in charge. He said this. Go ahead and listen to Paul's warning. He said, "Men, I see that our trip is going to be dangerous. The ship and everything in it will be lost. Our own lives will be in danger as well." But the ship's pilot and owner wanted to reach a better harbor for winter, so he decided to sail on and try to reach Phoenix. So a gentle wind began to blow. Wait a second, we need a boat. Hold on, let's see what I got here. Okay, here's a Sharpie and an extra gum pack, not sponsored. Okay, so here we are. And a gentle wind began to blow, and the crew saw it as their chance to leave quickly. So they pulled up the anchor and left. But then the wind grew into a force of a hurricane. And then the men lifted up the boat on the board and tried to tie ropes under the ship in order to hold it together. had to try to hold us together, and the storm went on for days. And by the third day, the men had started to throw their cargo overboard. And at this point, they didn't believe that they would ever survive this awful storm. But in the midst of the chaos, God had sent an angel to Paul. The next day, Paul spoke to all the crew and the passengers, 276 people in all, and he said to them what the angel had said to him. Do not be afraid, Paul. You must go on trial in front of Caesar. God has shown his grace by sparing the lives of all those sailing with you. Paul told everyone that they must be brave and they would survive the storm. But eventually, they would run the ship into the island. Still, the storm continued. All right. Then finally, on the 14th day night of the storm, 14th night, the sailors discovered an island nearby. The ship's crew was so afraid of crashing against the rocks that they lowered the lifeboat, planning to escape and to leave all the passengers. Paul spoke to Julius and the soldiers, Paul spoke to Julius and to the soldiers, saying the men must try to stay on the ship. And the soldiers cut the ropes and held the lifeboat and let it drift away. Just before dawn, Paul spoke to everyone again and tried to encourage them. Check out what Paul said. Paul said, for the last 14 days, you have wondered what would happen. You've gone without food. You haven't eaten anything. Now I'm asking you to eat some food. You need to live. Not one of you will lose a single hair on your head. After Paul said this, he took some bread and gave thanks to God. He did this where they could all see him. Then he broke it and began to eat. All of them were filled with hope, so they ate some food. But the ship hit a sandbar and began to break into pieces. And then the soldiers planned to kill Paul and all the other prisoners with them from swimming to freedom. But Julius stopped them because he wanted to save Paul's life. Some of the passengers and the crew swam, and some grabbed wreckage from the ship. Everyone reached the land safely, though. Hooray! Then they landed on an island called Malta, and the people who lived there had built a fire and welcomed the visitors. Here's my version of a fire. Then Paul gathered some sticks to feed the fire. But when he went to go put them on the fire, a venomous snake came out and bit Paul. Paul then shook the snake off into the fire and he was fine. When the people saw that Paul wasn't harmed, they thought that he must have been a god. But then Publius, the chief official, welcomed Paul and the others into his home. Paul discovered that Publius' father was very sick, so Paul prayed and asked God to heal him. Publius' father was healed. All of the sick people on the island flocked to see Paul, and they too were healed. When it was time to leave, the people of Malta gave them all the supplies they needed. Finally, Paul reached Rome. He reached it finally. And in Rome, Paul was allowed to live in his own place under guard. For 2 years, he welcomed anyone who came to see him. Paul shared the good news of Jesus with Jews and Gentiles alike, just as God had promised he would. No matter how many problems Paul faced along the way, he continued his journey because he wanted to keep sharing the news about Jesus. Jesus had changed his life. In fact, knowing Jesus had not only changed Paul, it also changed the way he saw his problems. That's what we need to remember today. Knowing Jesus changes the way you see your problems. Let's talk to God about that. Dear God, thanks for being with Paul through all the ups and downs. We can see how you always were with him, guiding his steps and giving him what he needed to face all the challenges along the way. We know you are with us too. Help us to remember that we can trust you no matter what. Help us to see our problems differently because of our faith in you. In Jesus' name, amen.
So, a shipwreck is probably worse than tripping on a cat, but a bad week is a bad week. And the important thing to realize is that we all have problems. And we all get to choose how we react to those problems. Paul chose to trust that God was with him no matter what he was going through. You see, Paul understood that God had a bigger plan. Ever since Paul came to know Jesus as God's son, he had devoted his life to telling others about Jesus. And Paul knew that no matter what problems he faced, they were worth it if it helped him spread the good news of Jesus to the world. So Paul didn't necessarily focus on the storm, the shipwreck, and the snake bite like they were problems. Instead, he trusted that God was leading him somewhere. He trusted that God had a plan. And Paul's not the only person who can change focus like that. We can too! When we hope and trust in Jesus, it can change how we look at our problems. That's the one thing to remember today. Knowing Jesus changes the way you see your problems. When you're having one of those weeks, or months, or years, or whenever we have a problem, sometimes the bad stuff is all we can focus on. But when you know that God has a plan and that Jesus is always with you, it can help take the focus off yourself and put your focus on Him. Whenever you're facing tough situations, remembering that God is with you can make it less hard or scary. So don't forget, God has got this. See you next time. Bye.
Okay, so I just want to close today and just really get the point across that Paul understood that Jesus is the one who God's big story is all about. He understood that no matter what problems he faced, they were worth it for him to share about Jesus. Because Jesus is the Savior God promised, and He is the one who makes it possible for us to have a relationship with God that will last forever. And even though Paul had to face a lot of trouble in his life, he was confident that God was with him, and he was determined to continue to do what God had called him to do. And that was to share the good news about Jesus, because Paul trusted God, that he could face his problems head on without worry. And just like Paul, we will face problems too. That is just a part of life. But when we face those problems, we can believe that God will get us through them. We can trust God and remember that He is with us. Remember, knowing Jesus changes the way you see your problems. When you're worried about the tests that you've studied for, you can pray and ask God to help you remember what you've learned. That He can give you the confidence that you need to do your best on that test. Or if you're going through a new overnight camp, or you're about to start a new school, or you're worried because you don't know anyone there, you can remember that God has promised that He is always with you. Knowing Jesus changes the way you see your problems. And go ahead and say it with me. Knowing Jesus changes the way you see your problems. God can even help you see your problems as new opportunities. But I just want to go ahead and dismiss. And before we do that, I want to say a prayer. So everyone, bow your heads and close your eyes. Dear God, You are bigger than any problem that we face. Please increase our faith so that we can see how knowing Jesus changes how we see our problems. Thank You that You'll never leave us. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lexus, for bringing the word to the kids this week and for just kind of praying over the kids. I really appreciate that. Guys, I am so excited for this next chapter in your lives. I think Pastor Lexus is going to do an amazing job. I hope that you can join us on Monday, which is tomorrow, as well as Thursday at 6 o'clock. So you guys, if you haven't met her yet, you get a chance to get to know her. And if you are either preschool or elementary, please join us on Monday and we'll talk before the So-and-So show. And then if you guys want to kind of watch it, you can, or if the preschool kids, you think that they might not be like keeping their attention with it, you can decide to go off. But I would like for everyone involved to join tomorrow night. If you haven't joined us yet, that would be great. That is all we have for this week. for Sunday of this week. But be sure to join us tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. I love all of you, and I'm so excited for what God has in store for UpStreet this season. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye!